Let's do everyone is a bust part 2. Yesterday we talked about the top 4 running backs, Hopkins and Adams, David Johnson, and Le'Veon Bell. We continue in CBS ADP to number 9 overall, and I removed Melvin Gordon and Patrick Mahomes from this top 16. And I think I removed Todd Gurley too, because we talked enough about him. Let's start with James Conner. So here's how it works. I give you a reason why he might be a bust. You tell me if you're buying it. You tell me just basically what you think. James Conner rushed for 65 or fewer yards in 8 of 13 games. He did not have more than 15 carries in any of those 8 games. When he returned from an injury in Week 17, Conner had 3 catches for 30 yards. Jalen Samuels had 7 catches for 40 yards. Remember, no Antonio Brown in that game. My point is, Conner was really, really helped by passing downs work. If it's going to Samuel, you could be a little concerned about James Conner. That's his bust potential, in my opinion. Guys, what do you think?
I also think he was helped by touchdowns. If you look at his 4 best games from last year, he scored twice in each of them. But that's a role he's going to still have this year. And I know that he didn't have a lot of games with 20-plus carries, but he did have enough with 17, 18-plus touches. A lot of those 65-yard games that you referred to, he also had 25, 30, 34 yards receiving. And I think he's still going to get that. I think Jalen Samuels will have a role where he's catching 3 to 4 passes per game. I still think Connor's going to catch 3 to 4 passes per game. He's going to be the goal line guy. He is their best threat at running back. This is a team that has consistently had great running backs going for them. I have no problem taking James Conner, certainly a non-PPR with a first-round pick. And in full PPR, I'd consider it late in round 1, knowing that I'm going to get a good player in round 2.
Okay, Dave, thank you for the James Conner breakdown. We have a special surprise for everybody. Oh, big surprise. Again, the Heath is on. Again, unexpectedly. Heath, welcome. What are you doing here?
It's really wonderful. I'm happy to be here, and I love the music. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So here's what happened. With the Michael Thomas breaking news, Jamie got pulled onto the HQ set, CBS Sports HQ. Download the CBS Sports app on any of your connected devices. Start watching HQ anywhere you are. I watch it on my phone sometimes, by the way. It's very cool. So Jamie's going to do some Michael Thomas stuff on HQ. Heath's going to step in here on the podcast. All right, next up is the number 10 overall in ADP. It's Odell Beckham. And my bust concern is are there too many mouths to feed in Cleveland?
Yes.
On paper, yes, but I don't think it's going to hurt Odell like it will Landry, Njoku, and Callaway. I'm surprised that that's the concern that you're going with, Adam, because
Injury
Odell
prone
Beckham
would
has
be the other one.
Well, injury concern for sure.
Yeah.
But he seems healthy right now, which is something that we're clinging to for a lot of players that have the injury-prone label. And his upside catching passes from Baker Mayfield is through the roof.
I mean, if Sammy Watkins was going 10th overall, we'd probably have injury concern as our first concern, right?
He wouldn't go 10th overall.
Well, Odell Beckham's missed more games than he has.
Yeah.
In the same number of years.
It's a valid concern. It is. The too many mouths to feed thing, if we're not worried about it with Hopkins, why are we worried about it with Beckham? I mean, I feel like
whoa. There's a couple of reasons. One, Jarvis Landry is better than, in terms of demanding targets, Will Fuller or Kiki QT.
Okay, what about Landry plus, say, Njoku versus Fuller plus QT on a team that's probably not going to pass as much as the Browns because they're a running team, the Texans?
That's the thing that we don't know, because if you look at the Browns' offense after Kitchens took over last year, they only ran 57 plays a game. They were not particularly pass-heavy.
Yeah.
They were when they were losing.
The Texans are a little more run-heavy maybe than the Browns this year, but the Texans have always been a team that runs 64, 65 plays a game. If Houston's more fast-paced, there may be a similar number of pass attempts.
It's hard to find a situation where teams don't try to upgrade their receiving core, right? Like you could look at Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, not Juju, and Michael Thomas and Odell Beckham, and you could say with all of them, hey, there are other guys there that might be better this year than the year before. There might be a target share issue.
Yeah, not Juju.
No, not Juju. Right, exactly. But the other guys, yes. So I guess of all these wide receivers, Heath, it sounds like feel like Beckham's the one that might concern you the most in terms of target share.
Relative to the number of targets he has received in the past, I would say Beckham is the one that concerns me the most. Relative to the number of targets they received last year, Adams would be the one that concerned me the most. One, because it's such an outlier in terms of his career, and two, because they have a new offensive system that I anticipate will be built more upon spreading the ball around as opposed to dropping back, running the same routes, and throwing it to the same guy every play.
Right. That I agree with you on that with Green Bay. In the case of Cleveland, I think that they want to use Nick Chubb a lot. I think if Freddie Kitchens had his druthers, he would give Nick Chubb 15 to 20 carries per game. I think you could say that about most coaches. But you don't acquire Odell Beckham and then only give him 6 targets a game. You can't say, all right, now, great, we've got Odell Beckham. Let's keep spreading the ball around. Let's get Rashad Higgins involved a little bit more. It's just not going to happen. Odell is too dangerous of a receiver. The addition of Todd Monken is going to make the passing offense, at the very least, he will whisper in Freddie's ear, let's throw it deep. We've got this great quarterback who can make plays, and we've got this great receiver who can run and make plays deep. And to Beckham's credit, in the games he has played over the last year and the last 2 years, he's come away with an over 62.5% success rate, meaning that he's been consistent enough to make you happy as a fantasy manager. So I think he's going to get the targets. I think he's going to get the touchdowns. I think he's going to be as good, if not even a little bit better, than he was in New York with Eli Manning.
All right, next up, Julio Jones. Here's the bust potential. Well, versus he seems to be always having some type of lower leg issue or whatnot. But Atlanta had the 8th worst scoring defense in the NFL in 2018. And Matt Ryan threw 75 more passes than he had thrown in either of his previous 2 seasons. You got Calvin Ridley emerging. You got Devontae Freeman back. Don't expect 170 targets again for Julio Jones. Think more like 150.
Sure.
Fair. So,
that's still pretty damn good.
So he's only going to have 90 catches for 1,400 or 1,500 yards.
Yeah, and 1 touchdown. No. Well, you'd like 100 catches from him. I mean, he's certainly capable of giving you 100 catches.
Yeah, I don't know if I have him projected for 100 or not.
Who would you rather have, Beckham or Julio?
I'd rather have Julio. I don't agree that this Falcons defense is going to be worlds better. I don't know where their pass rush is coming from. They play the Panthers twice a year, the Bucks twice a year, the Saints twice a year. They're going to have matchups against Houston and Indianapolis, and they're playing indoors for, I believe it's like the first 10 games of the season, something crazy like that. 13 of their games are indoors this year. They are going to be in a ton of track meets, and you know how I stand on Devontae Freeman. We've seen Julio Jones get at least 80 catches, at least 1,400 yards each of his last 5 seasons. That includes his crappy 2017 when he was playing hurt. And I know that touchdowns are an issue, but he's reunited with Dirk Cutter, who loves to air it out. And Cutter helped Julio find 10 touchdowns the last time that they were together as play caller and receiver. I am optimistic about Julio Jones. I am. To me, the biggest concern is what you started with, Adam. It's the injury. And the fact that even though he's not going to play in a preseason game, he's not practicing much, if at all, right now. Can I go on a quick tangent, by the way?
Sure. Why not?
It feels like week 8. There are too many injuries already. Training camp hasn't even been open for a week. Today is basically a week. And it feels like there's already like 10 players who are hurt. I'm just being grouchy about this, but there are already too many injuries to worry about for fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
even August 1st.
I'm not worried about a bunion being removed from his foot. That's what it is for Jones. But he does get banged up. He plays through injury. He misses some time.
Well,
it's a little concern.
We've now, I think, said more words about injury concern with Julio Jones than we did Odell Beckham.
Yeah, you're right. But
it's ridiculous.
Just because we said more words doesn't mean we're not more concerned about Beckham.
Julio's played at least 14 games 4 or 5 years in a row now.
I mean, by week 5, we're going to be starting practice squad.
5 years in a row, at least 14 games. He's missed 3 games in the last 5 years.
Next up, Juju Smith-Schuster. What's the bust concern? There's no Antonio Brown. He's got to be the number 1 guy now.
That's a really bad bust concern. This is stealing at his current ADP, and I almost made him a sleeper.
You can't call him a sleeper, but you can call him a breakout because I think he does have a chance. To say that he's going to get a career high in touchdowns this year is a no-brainer statement. if he can beat 111 catches and 1,400 yards, I think he can. But I think he can beat the yardage. I'm not sure if he can beat the catches. I think the Steelers aren't going to lean too much on him, but he's just such a unique type of receiver. There's a lot of receivers like this in the league that are just making great plays after the catch. They're slippery when defenders get their hands on them. He's not necessarily a speed guy. I don't think they're going to air it out to him 2 or 3 times a game.
I bet he has a 97-yard reception.
Well, he's done that each of the last years, but have you seen how they've come? They're mostly catch and runs.
Right.
Where he's,
nobody catches him from behind.
I know. So, but it's not. It doesn't happen every week, Heath. I'm not.
No, it's not going to happen every week. But
he's a very good receiver. He's going to get around 150 targets. He's going to
get more than that.
I don't.
You got 166 with Antonio Brown.
I know. I think the Steelers find ways to get other people involved and not make it a one receiver passing game.
I don't think it'll be a one receiver passing game, but I still expect him to throw it 600 plus times. I've got him. I've tried really hard to rein in my Juju Smith-Schuster projection so that it's not too outlandish. And I've got him with exactly 111 catches, just like last year, right around 1,420 yards like last year, 10 touchdowns on 174 targets. I honestly believe there's 200 target upside here, and he might lead the league in basically every receiving category.
All right. So Juju Smith-Schuster played 3 games in his career without Antonio Brown and has caught a touchdown in all 3 of them. Joe Mixon is up next. Bust potential for Joe Mixon. Bad offensive line. Lost their first-round pick for the season. And his points per game in Cincinnati losses would have made him the number 20 running back in non-PPR, number 17 in PPR. He was much better in wins. They kind of got away from him when they lost, and they were terrible without A.J. Green. The O-line's very concerning, though, for Joe Mixon. That's, I think, the big bust potential.
Sure, but they had a bad offensive line last year, and he still had good numbers.
A very good year,
right,
but not an amazing year. Probably more like a mid-second round pick kind of player. I think he was like the number 8-ish running back.
Yeah, I feel nervous about where I have him ranked, which is basically a borderline first-round pick, a high-end second-round pick.
Yep.
What I will say is I think he fits very well in that group of running backs we were talking about earlier the week with Kerryon Johnson, because there is a little bit of injury concern. There is a little bit of concern with how bad this team is and just how much they'll be able to run the ball. I think you put him in there with Mixon, with Kerryon, with Leonard Fournette. He's at the top of the list for me right now, but I could easily make an argument that he should be at the bottom of the list.
Okay, next up, we got Michael Thomas. Yeah, he caught 85% of his targets last year. And he was so far and away the best receiver on the Saints. He had about twice as many receiving yards and receiving touchdowns as any other pass catcher, including Alvin Kamara. What if the targets come down a little bit? Not going to catch 85%. I really don't think he will. He's not going to get 170 targets or anything like that. So Michael Thomas, I kind of feel like he's a little bit better in real life than he is for fantasy. What do you guys think?
I think you're right. And the addition of Jared Cook could certainly take some targets off of him. The motivation to play huge is maybe gone a little bit now that he got the contract that he was looking for, $20 million a year. But he's a complete receiver who I think Drew Brees has just learned to really count on and trust. And if he's going to continue with the high catch rate that he's had, not just last year, but even the year before, I think he's probably one of the safest PPR picks you can make.
I think a lot of the arguments against Thomas are against his upside and against taking him as a top 3 wide receiver, but he feels like maybe the safest guy that you could take in that 1-2 turn range, like one of the most bust proof.
Okay. He had 147 targets last year, Michael Thomas. Who has more targets, Thomas or Beckham?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think I'll say, I'm doing math in my head, I think Odell will beat him by less than 10 targets.
I have Thomas with 9 more targets.
Next up, Travis Kelce. He is 15th in CBS ADP, removing Melvin Gordon, removing Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes just will not be as good. And the numbers, last year may have been the best year of Travis Kelce's career. It just seems like there's a little bit of regression coming.
Probably.
Sure. Maybe a little.
Yeah, the thing I've been struggling with, because I do think there's probably, he was not really that much more efficient than he's ever been. He averaged 13 yards per reception last year. He's averaged 12.8 for his career. He caught 68% of his targets. He's caught 70% for his career. If they run more plays, which I think they probably will if they're less efficient, because they're not going to have as many 50-yard touchdowns, then it's possible Kelce's targets don't really go down. He seems pretty safe too.
Yep. I think that's the best word for it. And he's got the highest upside of any tight end in fantasy, which is why he's the first tight end off the board.
I have him projected for more targets than Thomas or Beckham.
All right, then finally, number 16 in CBS ADP. Again, this is removing 3 players. Really number 19, but not talking about Melvin Gordon, not talking about Mahomes. And I didn't put Todd Gurley here. Would have been Todd Gurley, but figure we've beaten that dead horse. Dalvin Cook. The only bust potential I really see here is that he's played only 15 games in 2 seasons. But I think he's pretty much going to tear it up when he's healthy. But yeah, Dalvin Cook, that's his bust potential. Can't stay healthy so far.
I mean, that's at the top of the list for Dalvin Cook.
Right.
But right behind that is he only has 9. He's played 15 games, just like you said. In 9 of them, he's given you 10-plus non-PPR points 60% of the time. 15-plus PPR, 6 of 15 games, only 40% of the time, which surprised me because I think Dalvin Cook is a 4 or 5 catch per game guy, especially now without anybody else on the roster who the Vikings coaches can look at and say, oh, yeah, he can help in the passing game. You know who helps in the passing game when Dalvin Cook isn't catching the ball and they want to extend run plays?
Irv.
Well, that's one. And Rudolph is 2, but it's not the name I was thinking of. Go look how many times Adam Thielen has had a big game when the running back for the Vikings has also had a big game. It's only 7 times in his career when it's happened. And Thielen's been around for a while.
Right.
And Mike Zimmer came out this week and he doesn't want to talk about how many carries Dalvin Cook's going to get. I agree. He's an unbelievable talent. And I fell for him as a rookie. I fell for him last year. But I'm worried the Vikings are worried. And that they're going, I'm sorry, Heath, that they're going to limit him a little bit more than we'd like. And that combined with the track record that we saw last year and the year before makes me very nervous to draft him in round 2.
I've got a question. If Dalvin Cook rushes for 960 yards and catches 50 passes for 400 yards, so he has 1,300 yards and scores 6 touchdowns this season, is he a bust in the second round?
I don't think so.
Not in PPR.
But he's not.
He's
not worth the second round. He's just maybe a third round value instead of a second round value.
Sure, because at draft time, I would imagine that there would be more players available, certainly with more touchdown potential.
Because that's what he's done in 15 career games.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So it's a little deceiving though, because he was really limited when he came back from the injury. They just did not turn him loose first few games back. Yeah, he had like 10 carries.
Well, I think it's a little deceiving, but
that's in your favor here.
His biggest production, I would argue, came in his first 3.5 games.
Right. And I don't know how often he's going to get that type of production moving forward.
I guess the bigger thing with that was the 6 touchdowns. They've not really given him a lot of opportunities in short yardage, and I understand questioning the talent and ability of Alexander Mattison, but the one thing I'm confident Alexander Mattison can do is run like a battering ram into the line and pick up a yard when he needs to.
Well, and this is a team, and I went back and checked this out. Maybe I have the information right in front of me. Maybe I can find it real quick. They love throwing it inside the 5. Like, it wasn't Latavius Murray stealing touchdowns at the goal line vulture style.
Well, he had more touchdowns than Cook each year.
Yeah, well, because Cook missed so many games. This is a team that doesn't mind throwing it inside the 3, and that hurts Dalvin Cook.